in a major development for India's internet and telecom industry, Elon Musk's Starlink is set to make its debut, potentially transforming internet access for millions in India. Union Communication Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has said that Starlink is likely to acquire a license to operate in India soon. Musk will be taking on other industry giants, including state-run BSNL, in the race to offer ultra high-speed connectivity to Indian consumers. Let's talk about the impact of it and Starlink's coming to India with Sumesh Srivastav, who's a telecom policy expert. He is with the Quantum Hub as well. Sumesh, how could Starlink's entry impact India's broadband market, especially with current low internet cost plans by private carriers like Jio and Airtel?
So a very good evening. Thanks for having me here. So just to answer that question, so what Starlink would actually do is it will create a new dimension in India's broadband market, right? So I don't see it currently directly competing with our Jio and Airtel in the broadband market because unlike traditional broadband provided, which relies on, let's say, your fiber optics and your cellular networks, Starlink is using satellites, right, to deliver internet connectivity. Now, this is something which can offer high-speed internet in areas where you can't lay down physical infrastructure. So while Jio and Airtel and all other players actually dominate the market with low-cost plans, that's primarily in your urban and semi-urban areas. So I think the use case for Starlink would be two. One is it would provide connectivity in the underserved areas, areas where the other networks aren't going. And the other thing where I see them going is in niche segments where your internet speed, reliability outweighs your cost considerations.
Right.
So I think instead of impacting the plans offered by Jio and Airtel in the broadband market, this will create a niche in the market that currently does not exist.
And could Starlink's satellite internet services improve connectivity in rural and remote areas? Also, what economic impact would this really have?
So absolutely, like Starlink has the potential to revolutionize internet access in India's rural and remote areas. So what we've had in India's internet journey over the last 10, 15 years is we've really come of a really long way in terms of internet access in India. But we still have a large amount of the population that is not connected or doesn't have high quality internet access. And this is basically due to the high costs and logistical challenges in certain areas where you can't establish the physical infrastructure.
Right.
And satellite internet will bypass all of this and provide high-speed connectivity directly from space. So that's like obviously the first part where it will definitely has the potential to improve connectivity. Now the second thing that you asked, see once we get internet access, like even if I remember the first time I accessed the internet or if you remember it, it has a magical effect, right? And in today's day and age, internet is like a utility. Like you have your water and electricity, you need to have access on them or to the internet. So it will enable digital education, telemedicine, e-commerce, access to government services. It overall will increase the quality of life for people who are currently disconnected. And yeah, it will open up a lot of economic opportunities, remote work, participation in the global digital economy. It will help local businesses learn more and more about what's happening. It can potentially help farmers learn about modern agricultural practices. And overall, it will really help to reduce your urban rural divide.
And as they say, data is new oil.
Yes, exactly.
But what really are the challenges that you foresee Starlink might have?
So, I mean, like you mentioned, in India, in terms of internet access and actually the cost of internet access in a way, if we compare with what's happening globally, especially when you talk about mobile internet, we are really spoiled in terms of we have some of the lowest data tariffs globally. So I would say the primary challenge would be the pricing strategy because, and you know, everyone says this, India is a very price sensitive market. We saw that recently as well when Jio and Airtel increased their prices by a bit. A lot of subscribers then moved away to BSNL. And the cost of satellite internet equipment like your user terminals and your dishes, like the initial setup cost is high, And while we don't know what the monthly subscription figures are going to be, I would say that it is going to be definitely higher than what your Jio and Airtel are providing.
Okay.
So I think the main challenge would be first figuring out a pricing strategy. And maybe the other thing will be trying to find the niche in the market.
Also, one of the biggest
Yeah.
areas of concern is data security. How would, Starlink really pass that test?
So, I mean, I would say to that one thing is that, and this I've read in media reports and on the NDTV website as well, that Starlink is in the process of complying with all the security and data localization requirements. So, I currently, it seems that the requirements that we have do not seem to be a challenge for them to comply with. They seem to be open to complying with the same, and that's also something the minister has talked about recently. The second point I would like to make is that when we're talking about, let's say, policy or regulation, currently we are in a journey where India's telecom regulation framework itself is in the process of being overhauled. So we
Right.
had the really old 1885 Telegraph Act, and last year we came out with the Telecom Act 2023, where the intention clearly is to modernize the regulatory framework and move away from licensing to authorization. So once we make that move, once we get a clearer framework from the government on how that's going to look like, then maybe some of these security conditions and some of these data conditions might not look the same as they look right now.
Right.
And I think the other effect this might have for our regulators and our policy is that to look at how do you accommodate emerging technologies which are maybe not restricted by geographical boundaries
Got it.
while continuing to safeguard our national and security interests. So that's one
Interesting.
trend
Yeah.
that I think is going to emerge. But otherwise, I think given our current framework, they seem to be okay with compliance.